captured and how it's being used. If you're taking a picture of somebody, let them see it. That's one of the coolest things about digital imagery right now. You really can flip a camera around a lot of the time and let somebody see the image. It's not like you used to have to do back in the, never mind. You have the ability to share these images pretty quickly, and you should. You should let people see what is being done. So these are some of the questions you ought to be thinking about when you're taking pictures. Does this picture reinforce stereotypes? Am I seeing like the 700th picture of somebody in Africa holding a small black child? And, you know, are you reinforcing stereotypes about the community and about what's going on? Are you informing people about your service learning experiences and about what's going on with the people there when you're coming in as an outsider? Do you want what you are talking about publicizing? If you were the one who was the subject, would you want it publicized that way? And this is one, and Alyssa will be able to talk about it a little bit more later on, but how can you photograph something using a symbol instead of directly photographing something? Or a way that photographs, that has an image that doesn't show a face but still shows in some way. We've seen a lot of pictures of clasped hands. And clasped hands tend to be symbolic on lots of levels. Are there other ways to set up your image so that you can get your idea across and not cross any of these ethical barriers? Please.
So last summer, I was able to go to Africa, and it was my first trip out there. We worked in Kampala for a couple of days. We visited Mulago Hospital, and we took a tour. We went into the malnutrition clinic, and they were very adamant, no pictures, no pictures. And I'm like, oh, I have my camera, like this is what I plan to do with it. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I won't take any pictures of patients. I won't take any pictures of the kids. And they said, okay, well, you know, you're with this delegation, so you can take pictures with them and their, you know, whatever. And so they're identifiable, but no one else is. And so when I was blogging about it that night, and I was looking through my pictures, I did take some that identified the patients, so I had to delete them. But then I took pictures with the wallpaper. So what was really interesting to me is there was this wallpaper that was on the whole clinic, on the walls, and it was like Pluto and Disney characters. And it was really interesting to me that in this clinic, where all I saw were these kids who just, they were so malnourished. It was so incredibly sad to see this. And for me, the first time being in Africa, it was really, I was just completely struck by it. But so one of the pictures I added to the blog was this picture of the back of the heads of our delegation of Mike Merson and Broadhead. And then you saw like the tops of some of the cribs. And then I focused on the wallpaper in the back. And I said, you know, in this place where there could be such sadness and struggle and sorrow, that there's this element of hope and happiness in these Disney characters. And so you can sort of tell a story with a picture that doesn't have a face in it. And so that's just one example that I can think of using a symbol, using these Disney characters.
So, the photo policy. We want you to take photos. We want you to vlog. We want you to do all of these things. We really enjoy it. Come on, people, this is my summer reading. But when you post a photo to a blog, we assume a couple of things, and you need to know this, that you have the appropriate permissions to both take the photo and to spread it widely. Like Alyssa said, these images sometimes get used outside of the blog. So they become part of a director's report or the website or articles. So if you are posting it in your blog, we are assuming you have done what you need to do for due diligence to make sure that you have approval to do this. If there's anything while I'm doing this reading or anybody else signals to me that they've read it and it makes them uncomfortable, raises issues of appropriateness, we will contact you, but we reserve the right to remove objectionable content from the blog. I already got to 3. I'm jumping ahead.
So here we have some examples of photos that we've gotten from students in the past, and I'd like you guys to participate say a little bit. And I want you to tell me, in this first photo, what do you like about this photo? What do you see? What do you dislike? Anybody, raise your hand. Words. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? What do you see? Yeah.
It represents like a student doing service.
Service. Student. Service. Okay. What else?
You get to see a little bit of the village infrastructure and see the context.
Yeah. You can sort of see the living conditions where we're at. What else?
It almost makes him look like a savior.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It almost makes him look like a savior because everyone's like has their hands out surrounding him.
Yeah. Yeah?
I mean, Lisa alluded to this before, but I find it incredibly distasteful when people, sort of parade around pictures of children from lower income countries that they visit, like, the whole stereotypical, like, holding, an African baby, like, I don't know, it just, yeah. And, like, it's cool because, like, it shows a student doing service and working with the community, but I still think it's a little, distasteful.
Okay, and we're hearing a lot of that lately, and that still seems to be the most popular photo that we get, is the students with all the little kids with them, and they're smiling at the camera, and so these are the majority of photos we get, and we're trying to sort of move to the more, academic, research, education, right? And so this, to me, other than that, says education. It says hand washing, right? He's trying to teach them how to wash their hands, sanitation in this community. They're in Honduras. This picture has some great color, right? We like pictures with a lot of color. Anybody else want to say something? No? Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering then, because I also agree that this deal of like, hey, look, it's me with a bunch of little poor kids in a poor country is like, it's kind of, I don't think we need pictures like that. But for example, if I was doing a project where I'm teaching kids how to wash their hands, I think that's what he's doing.
Right.
Like, what picture would you do? If you're not going to have kids in it washing their hands, I'm not sure what picture I would do to represent my research if that's what I was trying to do.
Well, I think what your point is that when you're not working with kids, obviously when you're working with kids, you're doing an education program, you're going to have pictures with kids in them. But there are many students that we've gotten pictures from who are not working with kids at all, and they still somehow have all these pictures with kids from the community. And those are the pictures they want us to showcase. And then other people come, it's like we're in a catch-22, and then other people come to us and say, hey, does that accurately reflect global health and what we're doing there and learning and academic, and we're like, no, but these are great pictures, right? They show, friendly kid faces. Well, this one doesn't in particular, but.
Can I check one thing? I know we're short of time, so I just want to, but in response to this, how would an image like this have worked if you didn't have the Duke student in there? If you had the kids washing each other's hands or passing the bucket around? Does that get at, this is what an activity that's being done, and yet not at the, here, let me show this, what can be seen as occasionally stereotypical image? Would that have worked? So that the activity is still there, the color, the kids are still there, but maybe what you're not seeing as much is that student saying, it's me in the middle. And I don't know if that works as well in terms of some of the other issues that we talk about.
I also think it highlights the importance of a caption and having a descriptive caption that sort of explains, like, he's teaching kids how to wash hands and he's engaging in that way, and not just, I took this cool picture, but this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how it relates to why I was even there. And so captions are often really the best part of a picture because that helps you interpret and understand it in a more valuable way.
Definitely. All right, so we did use this picture for the 2010 Director's Report because we liked many things about it. And so the pictures you will potentially take this summer could be used in other communications like this in the future. And obviously we gave credit to this student who is Adrian, who is in Honduras with Project HEAL. Alyssa? Yeah. Okay.
Do you ask our permission before you use pictures for other things, or is it kind of, if you put it on the blog, it's automatically fair game? help places not
So
able to.
when you are uploading to the blog, and this is the DGHI blog, when you upload, you are giving us that right to use the picture. And then we have a photo contest that each fall. And when you submit your photos to the contest, your submission, part of that is you are allowing us to have rights to this picture. And obviously in these reports and these communications, we give you credit, you know, we have your name there. We don't say it's our photo. It's definitely a student photo. So here's another example of action, right? We don't always want pictures of people smiling at the camera. We want to see what you guys are doing in the field. And so this is student Lisa Dang, who was in Uganda, and she was showing her community partners, I believe at the school that she was working at, how to use this microscope. And they had donated this microscope to this school that summer, which is kind of cool. And so here's another example where a caption would have been great too. So any comments about this picture? What do you like? What do you dislike? Kind of similar to the previous one, except it doesn't have kids. Yeah? Okay. So here's another one. And I'll move a little bit faster. So I think that the framing of this shot could have been a little bit better, right? You don't need to see all this extra space to the right. That doesn't really add anything to the picture. So when you're taking your picture, you know, what are you trying to show? What are you trying to portray? Zoom in on this subject, if it's a person or a thing. So what I would have liked to see is more of, you know, engagement over here, zooming in on the kids, that sort of thing. So keep in mind framing. And here's another picture where there's some extra space to the left, right? But I think this is a little bit different because when you read the caption that goes along with this picture, you find out that this man is a traditional healer in Togo. And so I think that when you learn that, he's in his setting, right? He's in his own environment. And so I feel like this still adds to the picture. It doesn't take away from the picture like the previous photo did.
Caption or not, I think the composition of that photo is actually really nice.
Yeah, why?
I prefer it. It shows him in his environment. I happen to like when the subjects are off to the side.
Yeah.
It's not centralizing on any one particular thing.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. And I don't think that you need to have your subject directly in the middle of the photo. And it's kind of cool that he's looking off, right? You're kind of wondering, like, what is he looking at, right? What is he doing? Here's another one. I think what this does is it captures emotion, right? Get this facial expression, looking off the screen. This would be a good example of something you can add to the blog, and it could sort of live by itself with just a caption. Like, you don't even have to write a whole blog. You can have this photo and just tell us who this person is. Introduce us to this person, right? This person has a story. What is this person going through? How did you meet them? What did they tell you about their life, their struggles, whatever? What is she doing there? Is that like her home? Where are we? You know? And I think another great element of this photo is the use of color. Anybody else want to say? Any comment? Anything you like? Anything you don't like? So we prefer photos with you guys in them, obviously. But there are some pictures like these where it's not always necessary for you to be in the photos. What do you guys think about this one? You like it? Why? What do you like about it? What does it show? Emotion?
Sort of like the old helping me out.
Yeah. Cross-generational? Well, partnership, right? So some of the best pictures don't even have to have faces in them. And going back to the sensitive environment, here's an example of a picture you can take in a clinic, sensitive environment, where you cannot identify the person or the patient, right? There's no HIPAA laws outside of the U.S. In many of the places where you're going, so you don't have to follow that necessarily. And if you can take pictures, you know, please do so. And so this is an example of, you know, you tell your boss, you tell the community partner, okay, well, I want to take pictures. I'm not going to identify patients, but I am going to take pictures from the side, from the back, right? And so this is an example of something that you could do. You can get creative with it. And this is sort of like from above. You can do it from above. You know, try photos from different angles. You don't have to go straight on right in front of you. All right.
But Alyssa, you would want them to have gotten permission from that individual.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. But yes, that is paramount. Beforehand, not after the fact. Yeah, sorry. But and then they may be, oh, well, I'm not sure, like, how are you using this? You know, so explain it to them and tell them, I'm not going to have your face in there. And then you can even show them the picture on your camera afterward. And we actually encourage you to do that. So here, do you like this photo? Like, this is what we just took of you. No worries. Okay, what about this photo? Anybody? What do you like? What do you don't like? What is she touching?
Yeah.
I can't tell
belly.
body part that is. Yeah.
Has to be a belly, right?
Yeah. This is a midwife.
Big shoulder.
Could be a breast.
So I see delicate touch. I see intense concentration, right? And pay attention to the details. You see a rosary around her neck. So where are we? You know. I think this is actually a very captivating photo. And you sort of start looking at the photo from the top right, and then your eyes sort of move down a bit. And so, and again, like, she doesn't have to be right in the middle of the picture. You know, so you can sort of offset. What about this one? Good color, right? So this caption for this photo is, these women just completed like a microfinance workshop or something in India. And so these are the papers, the microfinance like exams or something like that. So with that context, that sort of gives you a little bit more about what this photo is and their excitement, right? They're happy. They love emotion in photos. Anything else? Okay. So take us into your work environment. Show us what you do. This is an okay picture. I believe this is a student over here. But we encourage you, if you're going to do that, to take a series of photos. Take photos that, yeah, you're smiling at the camera, but take photos that are candid. Take, you know, shots from far away, and then take wider shots, and then take close-up shots. And zoom in. And then what do you guys think about this one? No? Why?
I don't know. I guess it depends on the caption and the storyline of it. Just kind of representing like this really dejected moment. I mean, I don't know.
Uh-huh. And they're like not even looking at the camera, right?
I mean, in this case, I would like them to show actually the background. Like they're showing like this one really like bleak building where behind them there's a whole sugarcane field, which is probably beautiful.
Yeah. And also, this child is not wearing any clothes, which is, we don't want that. It would have been better if this person could capture the shot of them doing whatever they were doing before. We're like, hey, come over here, let me get a photo of you guys. They clearly were not ready for that picture, so this is not the best picture to take. So just to kind of summarize a little bit, good color, good lighting, use your flash if you can. So this is sort of a baseline, and it is a bit arbitrary, but we do need them to be high resolution for the blog, and especially for the photo contest, and all of you guys must participate because there's some awesome prizes. But anyway, high resolution, and again, we prefer candid photos. We're less likely to use a photo of you smiling with the kitties. And then compelling subjects, emotion. We like engagement, right? The microscope, the student showing her community partners how to use the microscope. We like that. Showing some aspect of global health. We love it when you're in the photo, and if you're part of a group in your setting, in your community, we encourage you to take even more photos because someone from the group can, step aside and do it. We know that it's a little harder when you're there by yourself, and you can't always have somebody else take the picture, but as often as you can, we encourage you to take pictures with you in them, and maybe wearing your DGHI t-shirt, which you will get today. And then showing some originality, the unique framing of the shot. Sort of the third and fourth bullet, be patient, be deliberate, have intention when you take your photos. Walk around, get high, get low, take shots from different angles, and framing is really a creative way to take pictures. You can take photos from your phone. We don't encourage you to do that often, but if there is a situation where you don't have another camera with you, please do take the photo to capture whatever you're trying to capture and maybe what you want to blog about. Camera settings, make sure that they're on a setting that you can take higher resolution photos. Shooting inside, you may have a setting on your camera if there's a lot of fluorescent light, change your setting. So just be familiar with the camera you're taking before you go. And if you have a cool DSLR camera, you can play with the aperture and take even more creative photos, lowering the aperture, and then you can just focus in on whatever the subject is and then kind of blur other things out. So, get creative. And then there was one photo we got, and I don't have it here, but it was a really great photo of a student taking measurements of a child for her nutrition project, and there was a huge shadow, through a third of the photo, and it sort of ruined it for us. And so just watch out for shadows when you're taking pictures. And so save these for your album. This is very self-explanatory. We do get pictures that are blurry, and I wonder why sometimes, because it doesn't help anybody to see blurry pictures. Scenic photos, you can save those for your photo album. And then this sort of gets back to the ethics, stereotypes, labels, anything offensive. So these are some examples of photo contest winners last year and the year before. So this one, right, shows emotion, excitement. You kind of wonder what they're laughing about. And this is where a caption would be good. This one over here, this is a burn victim from China. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but it's still pretty captivating to see his face. And this was a drinking water program that they were doing at the school. So this just shows some nice interaction, engagement. And so again, we'll be sending you in our follow-up email the presentation, and we're also going to send you the guidelines for the photo contest that you can keep in mind for when you get back. And then again, going back to YouTube, you can set up your own YouTube account and then embed videos from your phone into the WordPress blog. And we encourage you, if you're going to do this, to do short videos. And sometimes it's cool if you talk to someone in your community and you sort of put the camera on them and ask them a question about, we're at this community health fair today, why are you here? What do you hope to get before you leave? That sort of thing. And you can even turn it on yourself if you're so inclined. Does anybody plan to do video? Does anybody like taking video? Yeah? Okay. We're going to keep you to that. Okay. Okay, so we want you all to blog with us. If you have any other questions, you guys can let us know. We would appreciate, we know some of you are leaving soon to go into the field. So we ask that you let us know by Monday, April 23rd, if you will be blogging with us, so we can get you all set up on the blog. And then when you signed in, there was a spot for you to sort of give us a concise title, and that'll be the title of your project on the blog. Okay, so again, I mentioned most of this. If you're going to be a team out there, we urge you to use just one username and have one account, and then all of you can blog from that one account. Use your existing WordPress account, and then for each post, and this will be on the guidelines we send you, but we stress that two things you have to categorize by the year and project, your own project, and then add your name at the top of your post. And again, that's the login. And then before you leave, so after you tell us you're going to blog with us, it's important that you start getting acquainted with WordPress, especially if you've never used it before. And then if you do have questions or you get stuck, you can still have email access, guaranteed, and you can ask us questions. So we urge you to make your first blog post before you leave, introducing yourself and your project. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you hope to accomplish this summer, that sort of thing. And then here are just some cool resources that we wanted to share with you guys. We just created our Pinterest page, which we're really excited about. And one of the boards is an all things cultural, so we're still updating this right now. But we are going to have resources up there on this board to sort of get you acquainted with the culture. There'll be books and music and different sort of things that you can kind of peruse before you get there. So you
Radio station,
yeah,
newspapers. I seem to remember asking.
Yeah, so we're going to have all that posted on this board on Pinterest with links. It'll be really cool. If you do want to do video and you don't want to bring your own video camera, or you don't have one, there is an option for you to do an equipment checkout with Duke. And then there's just some other links for storytelling and social media, and then some tips and tutorials you can use with the last one, Digital Photography School, which is a cool website. All right, and so now I'm going to turn it over to Brian. Thank you.
So my name is Brian Seavey, and I'm the Professional Development Coordinator of DGHI. So appropriately, I'm going to talk about professionalism and fieldwork. I'm going to keep it very brief. I know you guys have been sitting here for a while, so I just have a couple of slides. But even though I'm brief, I want to stress this is very important. So please don't fall asleep, the 3 slides that I have. So why is this important? Not to overstate it, but it certainly can impact the success of your project. It can impact and influence the work that people are doing on the ground. And it also can, I'll talk about this later, kind of open up some new opportunities for you in the future after your fieldwork. And of course, I think professionalism is very important because it's part of my job. But fieldwork is certainly a unique aspect of being professional. I think it's unique because it can put you in a new situation, a new environment, one which maybe has a little bit less support, whether that's social or institutional, but also less context. People may not know what Duke is. They may not know about Master of Science degree. They may not know about certificate in global health. And so, oftentimes it's up to you to make that first impression, and conducting yourself in a professional manner is really important. And on that note, they may know what the certificate program is. They may have had students in their city, in their village in the past, and they may have assumptions. And it's important for you to kind of create your own path and really create your own impression on people you're working with. So, kind of piggyback on some of the things that Alyssa and Lisa talked about already. I wanted to kind of focus more on kind of the communication with your collaborators and with professionals in the field. And so that would be helpful to kind of give an overview briefly about what professionalism means, at least to me. I think about a couple of different ways, and I'll try to throw in some examples too that hopefully will be helpful. So when I say parameters, I mean primarily here I mean looking at kind of the legal and ethical kind of rules of the road when you're working in a professional context. And one example I have for this is when I was working in Senegal, and I got to my location. I was working with my collaborator, and I think on day 2 I had a long list of people I wanted to interview and meet, and was really raring to go. And he was like, "No, we need to first talk to the sous-prefect, which is the kind of local government administrator." That doesn't seem very helpful, but I was like, okay, I'll follow the rules, and very important, follow the rules. And I went to talk to him, and it was very bureaucratic. There was nothing of substance said, but I just kind of made my appearance. At the very end, he gave me this letter of invitation, stating that I had been invited to be in this city in Senegal. And I thought, this is really silly. It had a little stamp, and it was all ready to go. But that letter saved my butt the entire summer, because everywhere I went, people asked, "Well, do you have your letter of invite?" And I was like, "Actually, I do." "Really? Do you guys want to see this?" And that was a rule that wasn't actually a rule. It was just kind of, it was an unspoken rule that this one location, the sous-prefect, was very powerful, and it was very important to make sure that you touch base with him before kind of working in the environment. And so something to think about when you get there is to make sure you communicate well with people, understand everything that you should be doing to sit in everyone's good side. Behaviors, moving on, looks more at some of the more personal elements of being professional. This means maybe conduct, your appearance, your attitude. And this also was hard for me too. I have another example here. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Mali, West Africa, and I was assigned to work with the mayor's office. And I was young, like you guys, and was a little bit naive about working in a new environment. And I remember one afternoon, everyone I was working with, I was only there for like a month, and everyone there was talking about this great meeting they went to with this NGO, about how important it was and how great they had, great time they had meeting with them. And I realized that I wasn't invited, and I was a little upset. I was like, guys, why didn't you invite me? It sounds like something exactly what I want to do. This would have been a great opportunity for me. And they didn't tell me. But I later found out from talking to my counterpart there that it was because I was wearing a T-shirt and I wasn't dressed appropriately. I thought that was kind of silly too, because I was young and I thought, you know what, I'm just here to do work, I'm a hard worker, appearance doesn't matter. Well, appearance does matter. And they were actually embarrassed by the fact that I was wearing a T-shirt. And they didn't invite me because they didn't want to be embarrassed. That really kind of shamed me into thinking more about how I was appearing to the local community. And particularly, I think, as an outsider in many ways, they have a lot of assumptions about maybe the fact that you have more money and that you have a lot more opportunities, and a lot of those assumptions are probably true. But it's important for you to kind of instill a professional attitude, and I think dressing professionally is something that sometimes, to me, at least at the time, wasn't a high priority, but it certainly had ramifications in the work that I was doing, so I kind of made it more of a priority after that meeting. And moving along, looking at, and it pains me to kind of share all these embarrassing moments, but I'm sharing them so hopefully you won't have to go through the same ones. Responsibilities is a little bit more straightforward and I think easier to understand. This just kind of talks about your general conduct at your site and your location, and I think this is another area where it's important just to kind of make sure that your expectations are clear and with everyone you're working with. So, what can we think about doing to really help and kind of improve our professional behavior in field work? And I think outline a couple of areas that I found important. Confidence is something that I think you work with a lot here when you design your proposals and you work with your mentors and thesis advisors and fieldwork advisors. And I think when you get to when you get to your field and you start doing your work, it's important to understand that programs might change, but you still want to keep a level of shared expectation among all your collaborators, and so people know what you're capable of and where you see your role fitting on the project. Collaboration is along those same lines, and it's about making sure everyone has an understanding of the shared goals and expectations, particularly if things do change from time to time. And then communication, I think it's important here to really highlight the fact that the people you're working with will probably have day jobs and other responsibilities outside of working with you. And so it's important to be very gracious and polite and respectful all the time and effort they're putting in to support you. So those are some of the, I know I just kind of blew through that, but I didn't want to spend too much time on it. But I still think it's a very important aspect to think about when you're working in fieldwork, because it's something that can have long-term effects on the success of the project. So please, certainly keep those in mind. But moving along, I think I like to think about everything you do as something that can impact future opportunities. And the word I use here is networking, which usually causes people to cringe. So I didn't want to use it too much. But the way you can think about it is, everyone conducts networking even if they're not thinking about doing it right now. It's basically just building relationships. It's making friends, but maybe making professional friends. So think about it like that, professional friends. And I had a couple of bullet points here I wanted to highlight because I thought that they would be helpful for you when you think about networking in the field. The first is this question that you'll probably see many times. What are you doing here? Who are you? And this is a great practice for you because when you get to a professional setting, you'll get the same question over and over again. Who are you? what's your elevator pitch? Well, in 30 seconds, can you explain who you are and what you're doing? Does everyone have a good answer for this? Does everyone have a good answer? Can anyone explain what a certificate in global health is in a couple of seconds? You only have 30 seconds. Can you just, boom, do it? Anyone want to try? Any certificate students want to try? And I didn't give you much time to practice. Maybe I'll move to the master's students. Any Masters of Science students want to practice in 30 seconds tell me what a Master's of Science degree is?
Shocking. It is a research degree that gives you the fundamentals of how to do global health research, but also allows you to pursue your personal interests outside of research through one of the 4 tracks that they offer academically.
Write that down, guys. No, that's good. That's good. And that's something that you might come across in the field, because people might have those kinds of questions for you. They might say, "Oh, you're doing a master's degree. What are you doing a master's degree in? What's global health?" And then you're in India. Does global health mean the same to them as it does to you? And it's important to think about those things when you're in the field, because people may not have the same context as you do. They may not know what Duke is, and it's important to think about it outside of those terms. So, again, being knowledgeable, I guess that's almost pretty straightforward. But what I wanted to stress here is that you're doing a pretty incredible project, and it's important. You've done a lot of research on the work that you're doing, but it's also something that's not going to be done in a bubble. You're probably going to find yourself working with other collaborators, whether they're in different organizations, different researchers, different community partners. And I think it's important to understand that everyone kind of comes with their own really specific element of knowledge and experience. It can be a great opportunity to kind of connect with other people as well. And so you may find yourself working in a place that Plan International works or JSI works, and that might have a lot of influence on the work that you're doing. And your project also long term might open up new opportunities for you, thinking about life after graduation, etc. So be prepared. Lisa has done an incredible job with this. One thing I wanted to add is that we have business cards that are available to purchase as well. Hopefully that segue was good. It's something that can be very useful in the field. I found actually, when I went to Senegal, I made them myself from was it Xerox or some organization had them. But this is a great communications tool. It's helpful because it allows you to share your contact information and email and telephone number with people. You'll often find, particularly if you're working in a position that has interaction with civil servants as well, or other NGO partners, they may have business cards too. And particularly if you're working in a different culture, different language, it can be hard to write down everyone's name correctly really fast. And so if you can grab a business card, that helps. But also, it tends to add a little bit of legitimacy to the work that you're doing, I found. Going back to my example in Mali, in that country, you're not considered an adult until you're 35. And so it was hard as a 22-year-old to have any kind of legitimacy. So I grew a beard. That helped. But business cards can also help too. And it's something that can give you a little bit more of a professional attitude. And it's something too that I think will let people know and understand, and they can then look up Duke University on their own and get more of that context they may not have going into that conversation. So that's all I have for you today. I think I undermined some of my discussion about professionalism with humor, but
if they want business cards, how do they get them?
Good point. So please come see me after this talk about business cards. It generally takes about 2 weeks to turn around, and so if you're leaving really soon, it might be hard, but if you are leaving later in May, it's certainly possible. If we have 1 or 2 people getting them, they'll be about $30 or $200. If more people get them, the price lowers to around $20, depending on how many we buy in bulk. And we'll also include the information in, I think, the email that's going out as well.
So something I've encountered with the "what are you doing here," or just kind of related to that, is like, what are you doing here? Why don't you go worry about health problems in your own country?
Yeah.
So how do you go about handling something like that?
That's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of you are worrying about health problems in your own country. I think you particularly are as well. I think you can talk about how health problems, and I think that's one of the basic elements of global health. Not everything is not necessarily bound by a border or other arbitrary line, that all these things can inform the health problems that are present in the U.S. And you can kind of talk about some of the similarities too.
Yeah.
I think with each of these projects. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times people feel like their own people that in their own country are being undermined.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why isn't one of our Argentinian young researchers doing this, or something like
Yeah, I think we want you not to be in a bubble. We don't want you there by yourself doing your own thing. We want you to have social relationships with your collaborator, and so you can talk about how this is a partnership.
Yeah.
And I think also it goes to show, this will come up too, it goes to show the fact that being very good with communication and setting clear outcomes and goals is important, and letting people know that you will inform them along the way. If you're doing a thesis, it's something to think about, making sure they see they see the product of their hard work as well, and so they feel like they're connected, not just while you're in the country, but also when you leave, they're continue to be part of that connection.
Thank you, Brian.
Nope. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Alyssa, for all of this. This is wonderful. In the last couple of minutes, while everybody's packing up and disconnecting and closing things, I do want to point out Emma in the back, who has brought us some things for you guys to take into the field with you. We have T-shirts and do we have thumb drives?
Oh, yes.
So please pick one up and head out. And if you have any questions, I'm going to hang out for a few minutes. Lest you think that this sort of question of how your experience is shared out in the world is a modern reality, it is only because we are digital. I will tell you that I often have started workshops talking about this in the past, referring to an incident in 1961 with a postcard from a Peace Corps volunteer that fell on the ground in Nigeria and sparked an international incident involving the presidents of both countries. In the end, the dialogue and the work that was done turned out to be really positive. But it was an inadvertent set of comments on a postcard that somebody threw away instead of mailing, thinking that nobody would ever see it, that caused the problem. So please share, please bring us your stories, please allow us to be part of what you are doing.